Hello, developers, and welcome to the PHP Architect Community Corner, where we have conversations with members of the web development community. I'm your host, Scott and today we're talking with Chris Morrell about PHPxWorld. Chris Morrell is a father, the CEO and CTO of the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, and an avid open source contributor. He is building tools to help home inspectors for 25 plus years and tries to contribute as much of his work back to the open source community as possible. Thank you, Chris, for finding some time to talk to us today.
Hey, Scott, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I think you've come on my radar for a couple of reasons recently, but the most recent one is your work in trying to bring back in-person conference or user groups. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you've created and how that's going?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that during the pandemic, one thing that kind of kept me sane was really embracing the PHP and Laravel communities on Twitter at the time. I think that, just not being able to spend a whole lot of time with friends put me in a position to maybe get over a little bit of my discomfort in reaching out to people that I didn't really know very well. And I made some good friends that way. And so I think that when things started to open up and I started to go to events, most notably Laracon, it felt very different because it was like getting together with a bunch of friends for the first time. And I kind of walked away from that just really feeling like I don't want to wait a whole nother year for this to happen again. And so that kind of like sparked the idea. All right, we used to have a really great user group in Philly, the Philadelphia PHP, Philly PHP. But the fellow who ran it, moved outside of the city and things kind of slowed down. And it, I don't know if the pandemic was exactly the killing blow. I think it maybe ended before that, but I don't think it would have survived the pandemic if it had made it to it. And so, I reached out to a couple of friends about like, let's try to get something going on again. And at first we were kind of thinking about, okay, do we want to do like a Philly open source, something like that's a little bit bigger? But as I was having those conversations, my friend Joe Tannenbaum started PHPxNYC. And when I saw sort of what he was doing there, I was just like, okay, this is a no-brainer. Like, as long as Joe doesn't mind me kind of hopping on that name, like let's call it PHPX Philly. It felt right. It felt like it kind of hit that sweet spot of being open to the whole PHP community, but not trying to be more than a PHP user group. And so that was kind of where things started, was going up to New York to a couple of the New York City meetups and, just getting a small group of people together here, and, over a couple of months. And so what happened was we had these two meetups, and when I built the PHP Philly website, I thought, all right, well, let me do this as sort of like a multi-tenant app. That way, if Joe ever wants to kind of join forces, we can. And I knew he was using Mailcoach, so I was like, all right, I'll build it using Mailcoach so that we can kind of join forces there. And, just sort of thinking a little bit about that piece. But I was on Blue Sky, and I can't remember who it was first, but I just saw kind of across my feed someone saying, oh, I want to start a PHP meetup, maybe even saying something about PHPX. And I was like, well, if you want to point your domain at this IP address, like it's already ready to go, I'll just add you to the database. And over the course of the next like 3 days, I think 12 meetups started up. It just kind of, I didn't have any intention of kind of being this ambassador for like this new era of PHP meetups. But when it started to happen, I just thought, yeah, I mean, I really, really want to see the in-person PHP community come back. I know that there are cities where it never went away, but in my experience and the experience of a bunch of other folks, it really did disappear for a while there. And so, I've just been kind of trying to do what I can to facilitate that.
Yeah, and that's really awesome. Like I think that like definitely. So I went to Cascadia PHP, which was last month or the month before, and there actually one of the talks was about how like there is this very clear delineation between pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. There's just all these things that have just like become dormant because of like across that line, right? And it's a question mark of why, but probably the pandemic. So I mean, like, there's a lot of things where we can go like it was probably the pandemic that did this and not just like random. So that's all like really really like it's great. Like I don't think anybody ever goes, I'm gonna be this person. Right? It just kind of like happens, and so it's like great that you're like willing to take that mantle on. So what is the distinction of like the PHPX? Like, does that mean something in particular, or
Not really. I mean, I think it's just like it's a brand, as it were, that people are kind of rallying behind. I think it just kind of hit at the right time. I think that Joe really, he went with a pretty minimalistic look, but he had like a real aesthetic that he was going for with the NYC website. And I kind of like ran with that and just went with this sort of, monospace, but nicely designed look and feel. And so I think that folks just kind of thought, all right, this is like a cool thing that looks good and feels good. Like, let's all kind of rally behind that. And sort of take advantage of the fact that it's almost becoming its own brand. We kind of all get to, benefit from that in terms of finding, folks who maybe can support in terms of sponsorship, or folks who might know about, space that we can host events at. Those are kind of the two big challenges when you're starting up a meetup, or the three big challenges really are, money for food and drinks, space, and speakers, right? And not every meetup has to have a speaker every time, but it certainly helps. And so the sort of next phase of PHPX is trying to find ways to really pull resources around those three things, to make it easier for different organizers to find space, maybe the exposure that the like whole PHPX network gets will make different groups that do have like a big conference room, or like like a local company might hear about it. Maybe they didn't hear about the individual meetup, but they might hear about the network, and be able to reach out and offer a space. Or a company that maybe has offices around the country that could say like, yeah, we want to host these, like that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so like if somebody is already so let's talk about this from the perspective of like somebody who's interested in going to a user group, right? So you can go to the phpx.world website, and it'll show like all of the different cities that have been affiliated with what you've got going on. And is it just kind of like find what you like and then sign up for the mailing list, or what's close to you, I guess, and sign up for the mailing list?
That's sort of the entry point, phpx.world. And you just hit the menu bar, and it's going to show all the different user groups. I've built it so that we can host the meetup website, sort of basic RSVPs and mailing lists, or we can link out to an existing site, because I want to make sure that all the groups that already exist can also benefit from like this little wave of exposure that this thing is getting. So probably 2/3 of the items in that list are going to be sites that are hosted by me, and then the other third is just linking out to existing user groups. So it's not like I'm not trying to like enforce any sort of like uniform experience. I'm just trying to like provide some tools that make it easier. But for the most part, yeah, like right now, I would say for anyone who's interested, like go to the website. If there is a group, go ahead and sign up for the mailing list. And then like right now, a lot of the organization's happening on the Discord. So there's going to be a link to the Discord for many of the PHPX websites. And yeah, I think that right now, there are a couple places that have had meetings or have actual meetings planned. But like, if you can get involved, just even if you're not going to organize, just like telling the organizer, yeah, I will definitely come. Like I'm a person who's interested in seeing this happening, really can make it a lot easier, because it's a lot of work to organize these events. And you want to know that there's at least going to be a couple of people who show up,
I've started doing like conference talks. Like I've started going to conferences and talking at conferences, and it's really nice because like I see like I have like that same thing where like I see the same people like at the different conferences, and like they become like my conference friends, right? And so I have like these people that I like see a couple times a year, but like I do want that like. I want to have that sensation locally, like every month. You know, it'd be nice to have like that kind of feedback. And so so I live in what I call a user group desert. There's like the closest conference to me, or the closest user group is in Chicago, which is a 5-hour car ride, which is not something I can like, just like, go to. And so what would I have to do as just like regular Joe Blow to get myself set up so that I could, you know, be a user group speaker through your website?
Yeah. I mean, right now it's pretty informal. I think that like over time, as things sort of solidify, we may need to, think about policies in terms of like who can start another meetup like within the same region of each other, so that we're not like having tons of overlapping competing groups. But I don't think we're anywhere near that yet. So literally, you go buy a domain. There's a document. It's just like a markdown file that gets rendered on phpx.world/organizers that walks you through the process. Essentially, it's a pull request to the open source repository that is the website. And when you submit that PR, we have I just have a test that runs in CI that checks, is this domain registered? Is the JSON formatted properly? And if it is, it passes, and I hit merge. And when I hit merge, it will just sync that new meetup into, or that new group into the database. It actually automatically connects to Laravel Forge and adds the domain to the Forge box. So like literally I hit merge and now you have a working website. And I've kind of laid it out. So there's prospective user groups, there's pending user groups, and then there's active user groups. So you would probably just start out as a prospective user group, which all that means is your website says like, hey, we'd love to get something going, like get on the mailing list and join the Discord to like rally around seeing this happening, you know? And a pending user group is essentially just like, hey, we're planning the first meetup, stay tuned, right? So that's kind of the extent of it right now. Like I said, I really want to figure out, and it just comes down to finding time. I really want to figure out, ways to make it easier to find sponsorship, to find venues, and to find speakers. That you're a little bit on your own for right now, although I am in active conversations with a couple of like big players in the PHP space that like are very interested in supporting this stuff and seeing it happen. So there will be some resources there, both on the sponsorship and on the speaker side, within the next couple months, probably by mid-February, I think. So yeah, like that's kind of the process right now. It's pretty low key. It's you're still organizing your own group, right? I'm trying to make it as easy as possible to get a basic website with RSVPs live, and get you a mailing list. And actually, our friends over at MailCoach, sponsor a mailing list for every group. So like you can, once you sign up and get on the Discord and get set up as an organizer, I'll get you access to a free MailCoach account so that you can do mailings out to the everyone who signs up. So there's a little bit there in place, but otherwise then, yeah, you just got to start finding a venue and try to get connected with some folks who want to show up.
Do you want higher clarity in production but don't have the time to earn your degree in observability? Me too. Forget logs, metrics, and traces. HoneyBadger Insights is built around structured events. When you send your application logs and other events to HoneyBadger, you'll unlock the power of HoneyBadger's powerful new querying language, BadgerQL. You can then use BadgerQL to ask any question about your data, convert any event into a metric, and chart your metrics on a custom dashboard. You can do all of this on HoneyBadger's free plan as part of their comprehensive monitoring suite, which includes error tracking, uptime monitoring, status pages, and more. Speaking of error tracking, did you know that an error is really just a first-class event in HoneyBadger? In fact, you can use Insights and BadgerQL to explore all of your existing HoneyBadger data in new ways. It's pretty cool. Give it a try today at honeybadger.io. That's honeybadger.io. So I'm going to do this, right? Like my goal is like in 2025, there's going to be like a user group that I can go to. And so I just am trying to figure out like how to do that. So I do appreciate like you were like the impetus for me to go out and do this. I'm like, I should just do this because I've been talking about it for a couple of years. Like I was like, I should do that in like 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh, this is your bad year. You know what I mean? And so like it was just kind of like I've slowly been going like, oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. So I'm definitely like I'm gonna reach out and like read through all the documents and try to set this up and get that going, at least as a perspective thing. Because I think like ultimately to me the hard part is like I live in not a metropolitan area. Like I live in like a a smaller, like more rural area. And so I was like, how do I even find people to be interested? But this sounds like it's an excellent way to at least get that conversation started. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, there's I'd say a growing group of people on Blue Sky that are like sort of actively supporting each other's, endeavors in this space and like promoting each other's events. And I think that's, I don't know that that's going to get you a critical mass of people, but it gets you a little bit of extra exposure in the beginning, at least, for sure.
Right. And even if it's like just not me showing up, right? If there's two people, it would be worthwhile as far as I'm considered. So yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like the first PHP Philly meetup was 3 people in a pizza shop, that was the entire meetup. And then the second one was 6 people in a friend's office. And the third one was like 25 people in that same office. So like, I think it's been all over the place for us. And then the following one was back to 7 or 8 people. So, it's been a little bit of like I don't know what the magic of that third meetup was. I think perhaps it was having a formal speaker, which is something that I'm trying to figure out, and I'd like to sort of provide some resources here too around. We've had speakers. We've had the most recent one was a show and tell, which was like really fun. Anyone who wanted to just could get up and just walk the group through a project that they're working on. Most of them were PHP, but like one guy showed off a Swift app that he was building. Like he's never done any desktop development and just wanted to try it, and kind of showed us what working in Swift is like. I talked about a Blue Sky labeler project that I'm working on that's all in JavaScript. So like it was kind of like whatever you want to show that you think people would be interested in, go ahead. And that's been a really fun format for events. And then we're also talking about doing more like social, like out of a conference space social events, like maybe do an escape room together or go bowling or something, like just find other ways to meet as a group and socialize.
I think ultimately like the part that I always find interesting about the user group concept is it's like part learning, but also part like networking, right? And like just having like that space where you can have other people, because like in my area, the other PHP developers that I know work with me, right? I mean, like that's the reality is like we are already like a group, but there's more of us out here. I'm sure it's just trying to find those people and networking with them.
Yeah. Well, that's what when I was first talking about PHP Philly, I got together with a friend of mine who runs a Drupal shop. And we were just talking about it, and I just said like, standing right where we are right now, I feel like I could throw a stone and reach where another PHP developer is, right? Like, it's there's a lot of us out there, and in a big city like Philadelphia, there's got to be a critical mass, but everywhere, there are PHP developers. It's you don't remain the most popular web language and not have people working on it, right? Like, it just is what it is.
Right. Even like there's somebody who's writing some line of business application for some small company that's a PHP developer, like everywhere. Is there anything else you'd like to direct our listeners to before we say goodbye for today?
No, I mean, I would say check out phpx.world. and join us on Blue Sky. You can find me on cmorrell.com on my different socials, but I really am only spending time on Blue Sky these days. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. I feel like Blue Sky is like a really warm, fuzzy blanket. Like it was like a really nice, like getting into it has been really nice. It was, I just like resisted like another social media network for a long time, but man, it is a nice place to be. It is a nice.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, I think we're starting to feel some growing pains, or we're starting to feel the very beginnings of growing pains. Not that really is an issue yet, but I can kind of see it becoming like anything, as you grow, you have to figure things out. But I think the fact that they introduced those starter packs made it so much easier to switch over, because you're not like starting from scratch. You can go on there and say, like, I'm looking for Laravel developers, and there's just like a bunch of really great starter packs where you can find, like I run one that's like automated, that automatically adds anyone who's contributed to any of the Laravel repositories. You could just like click follow all if you want to, or at least like scroll through that. And Justin Jackson runs another Laravel one, and a bunch of like, business and podcaster starter packs. So like whatever you're interested in, that's it just makes it so much easier to switch, and it's a new platform, but they got a lot of really good things right. And there's a lot of really interesting concepts there. And I think it's been a really fun place to be in the last few months.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thank you. It was nice, really nice talking to you today.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me.
I have to say another heartfelt thank you to Chris for all of his time, and for your time as well for listening. If you're not already a subscriber, make sure you subscribe with whatever your preferred method is. There's a video version on our YouTube channel, as well as an audio version on the PHP Architect website. And maybe if you decided you're going to be your own organizer for a meetup, let me know as well. I'd love to know if we've had some sort of an impact with all of this discussion. This is Scott Keck Warren for the Community Corner podcast, signing off and reminding you to keep listening, keep coding, and keep reading.